Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about how an Atlanta prosecutor, the one that you're watching right now, former police officer, and life advice podcaster got caught stealing $15 million in COVID funds and bought luxury items like a hot pink Rolls Royce, all while talking about hard work and integrity. Shelitha Robertson, age 62, had obtained the money under the Paycheck Protection Program, a federal stimulus program that was set up during the pandemic. She then used the illegally gained funds to cash out on a 10-carat diamond ring, a Rolls Royce, a motorbike, and shared those funds with close friends and family. Robertson submitted loan applications on behalf of 4 businesses that she claimed to own and control. Basically, she decided to make her own money through deception, submitting one false loan application after another to the COVID relief scheme, claiming she needed the cash to support 4 businesses she owned. What she said in the loan documents was extraordinary, claiming she had a workforce of more than 400, meaning she was entitled to millions of dollars in handouts for each of the companies she claimed to run. But the loan applications were full of fake figures that falsely inflated the number of employees and average monthly payroll for each of the companies. Court documents show that Robertson was responsible for providing the payroll of 427 employees, when in fact there were none. It meant Robertson was fraudulently able to obtain enormous PPP loans that could otherwise have not been the case. The money was, of course, intended for legitimate businesses who needed it to survive the pandemic. Basically, she had all this integrity, status, and power, and she threw it all away for some money and, items. She put her life, reputation, and family at risk for what? Material items? I think freedom costs way more than a car and a ring, but what do I know? Robertson and her co-conspirator, Chandra Norton, had no such qualms about the abuse of such a scheme and went on to submit false tax documents to support the inflated statements within each loan application. Robertson denied grossly exaggerating the number of people employed by 4 of her companies to obtain millions of dollars in federal aid designed to keep small businesses afloat during the coronavirus pandemic. She blamed her company's fraudulent 2020 PPP loan applications on her then friend and personal attorney, Chandra Norton, who pleaded guilty in a separate prosecution. Prosecutors said Robertson and Norton were best friends and partners in crime who together schemed to get as much money in PPP loans as they could, ultimately receiving almost $8 million. Robertson transferred $50,000 in PPP funding to her daughter, which we'll get to later, who has not been charged, withdrew $25,000 of funds in cash, and gave her attorney at the time and best friend, Chandra Norton, $400,000. Also, Robertson's attorney, Craig A. Gillen, said Norton was financially desperate and an evil genius who used Robertson's personal and business information to enrich herself. But prosecutor Bernita Malloy said Norton had submitted false loan applications at the direction of Robertson. Robertson's defense defies logic and is absolutely ludicrous, Malloy said. Federal prosecutor Ariel Glasser said Robertson had threatened to kill Norton when she was arrested and separately threatened another person who filed a police report. Gillen said those comments were made in frustration. So not only did they know as a team for sure what they were doing was illegal, they also tried to back it up with false tax documents. And threatening to kill people is even crazier. There's one thing I have learned for sure as an adult living in America: you do not mess with the IRS. They went after Yoshi and they will come after you. Robertson used the loans proceeds to purchase luxury items, including a 10-carat diamond ring that would have been worth at least $150,000, together with luxury vehicles, including a Rolls Royce, which was hot pink, by the way. The Department of Justice also said she transferred funds to a co-conspirator, Chandra Norton, and other family members. A jury convicted Robertson of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering, with the judge sentencing her to 7 years and 3 months in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Robertson will almost be 70 by the time she's released from prison, leaving behind her influencer daughter, Bree Renee. I think it's sad for her daughter and her family, but who's to say that podcast wasn't started from the money that she stole? Also, 600,000 followers. I think the daughter will be okay. The two co-host a podcast together titled Mommy and Me, in which they discuss navigating life challenges. Remember, this is a Navigating Life Challenges podcast, so basically giving advice on how to do things right in your life. Again, she's on a podcast about how to do things right in your life. In the October episode of the podcast, Robertson presented alongside her daughter, Bree Renee, the one pictured. She was asked if she would choose integrity over poverty. When asked how she would react to the chance to make money quickly, I choose integrity and whatever else it brings. I don't choose selling your soul to the devil, because that would mean I am willing to belittle myself and degrade myself for the love of what? $1? Robertson began, knowing full well the Department of Justice were already investigating her. How my kids view me and respect me means more than earning a quick dollar for me to be something that I'm not, Robertson said, just weeks before she was hauled off to jail. So she is just a habitual liar. She could have been upfront about what was going on, but she rather saved the image of the podcast, not thinking the impact of this story would actually have on her life, the result of the podcast, and the life of her daughter. So let's look at the podcast real quick and see a quick summary of it. It says Bree Renee and her mother, Miss Renee, have a weekly mother-daughter conversations about cultural topics, issues, and their personal experience. During this weekly cross-generational conversation as they educate, enlighten, and inspire you with real and raw banter. You've never seen a mother-daughter duo quite like this. This is your weekly dose of therapy and laughter you didn't even know you needed. I wonder if they're going to enlighten and inspire me to get $15 million in PPP loans. And also, as a reminder, her daughter was transferred $50,000 from those initial PPP loans and is not facing any criminal charges or repercussions. As a reminder, her daughter got $50,000 transferred to her from those loans and is not facing any criminal charges or repercussions. I'm dead broke, Robertson said in court before her sentencing. My business is gone, my law license is gone, my assets are gone. The only thing I have left is my family and my faith in God. She said she was deeply sorry for the impact her conduct has had on her family, life, and community. I'm not that person that tries to take advantage of anybody or any situation, she said. I've owned up to what I've done. Owning up to what you did, though, is very different when $15 million is missing from actual businesses that could have used that money and will never be able to see it now. That's what she's not addressing at all. The effect this has actually had to the businesses in her community. U.S. District Judge Stephen D. Grimberg said the loss of the $14 million in funds is staggering. It was her level of direction and confidence in being able to commit this level of fraud without being detected and that instigated it in the first place. Motivated by greed, Robertson deceptively obtained the funds that were designated to provide emergency financial relief to struggling small businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, the defendant in this case was held accountable for fraudulently obtaining millions of dollars through the Paycheck Protection Program and using those stolen funds to enrich herself while small businesses were struggling during the pandemic, added Kyle Miles, special agent in charge of the FDIC. So what I'm going to do is show you a news clip to give you a different perspective of the same story.
Well, Jacquel, have you ever seen something like this in the courtrooms that you've been in? I mean, was this a case of where they was both guilty and one turned on the other one before the other one could get the deal? Are you smiling? What do you make of this?
During the course of the pandemic, there's been tons of people that have been prosecuted due to the improper use of these PPP loans. So this is certainly something that has come up quite a bit since the pandemic. However, what makes it odd is that you have two lawyers, unfortunately, that are involved in this case. And you're right, Ms. Norton has been disbarred, but she took a plea back in 2020 where an agreement to testify against Ms. Robertson. And so unfortunately, this is something that has commonly went on since the PPP loans have been given out, and it's really unfortunate.
I'm in Atlanta, and that PPP loan story has been the joke for the past 3 or 4 days. It's like you mentioned a Rolls Royce. She didn't just get a Rolls Royce; she got a hot pink Rolls Royce. And in my head,
what?
Oh yeah, it was a hot pink Rolls Royce.
Come on.
And part of me's wondering, was she riding around Atlanta with an arm out the window, like playing UGK by playing Pinky Ring by UGK, thinking nobody was gonna pay attention to that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what got in her head to make her think she was going to do that. It's sad. It's funny, but it's sad because you would think somebody who's a lawyer would have better sense than to do this. But, you know, it's just one of the things, man, you just got to shake your head as to why people move the way they move.
So that's the story of how a former police officer, former prosecutor, and lawyer And also a podcast person who talked about integrity, by the way, got arrested for her $15 million PPP scheme. Let me know your opinions in the comment section below, or just tell me where I'm wrong in this story. If you enjoyed the story, you will like this other story where I cover a valet who stole a $400,000 Rolls Royce and just handed the keys to somebody else. Until next time, have a great day. Peace.